Jim McGregor from TIRIAS Research here. You know, walking around MWC, you never know quite where you're going to find points of innovation or interesting stuff, but this is at the Intel booth, and this is a pole-mounted solution that's water-cooled. If you get in here, you can actually see the water cooling going through it. So this would be for a base station or whatever, where they have it's a Nexalus system using a Dell PowerEdge server that's actually integrated into this basically pole-mounted system. It's kind of a top-of-rack type of cooling, just like you'd have in a data center, but into a system, a very small system that you could actually put on a pole. That just kind of tells you where things are going, where it's not just all about the data center, but the extension of the data center out to other applications and having a liquid-cooled solution out in the field. Jim McGregor with TIRIAS Research. I'm here with Fiona, and I showed that liquid-cooled Nexalus solution, and now she's going to tell us all about it.
I'll do my best. So yes, we are liquid cooling. So this is kind of a deconstructed view first, and then we'll show you the real deal inside the server. So basically, we have direct liquid cooling on any of the high-powered components that would create a lot of heat. So these are examples of our CPU cold plate, our pump which will drive our fluid around the system in a closed loop. This is our lip card cooling, GPU cooling. So basically, we create a loop within the system. The fluid passes over all of the high-powered components, extracting the heat. It's then passed through an air-to-water heat exchanger. In this example, you don't see it, but it would then be passed through then an external radiator to reject the heat. The other thing that we do is we're sealed servers. We're one of the only companies that actually seal the server. And before we do so, a small amount of air is trapped within the system. And we use that air then as circulated around on a continuous basis, and that cools any of the lower powered components, so things like your PSU, your DIMMs. So again, the air would be driven up, it'd be pulled through your heat exchanger and recirculated back around through the system. What makes it different and what makes it really exciting is these sealed server units, they're available for edge deployment, and the example that we have around the corner now that we can show you is IP66 rated. In that seal, what that does is you get superior performance for your compute, so superior CPU, GPUs if you've got them included performance. Reduced noise, so for some regions, decibels when they're deploying these systems outside of poles are really important. So we'd have an approximately 20 decibel reduction when compared to air systems or other liquid cooling systems. Energy is a really hot topic, pardon the pun. So for our edge unit, we reduce energy by up to 25%. In our data center deployments, it's even more, it can be up to 34%. And then because it's completely sealed, there's no air in, nowhere out. So it opens up your deployment opportunities on the edge. So for example, if you're deploying near coastal areas, a lot of the time salt-laced airs can corrode your servers very quickly. Your server might not last a year even. But with our systems, nothing can get in. So you've got no corrosion issues, no dirt getting into your system, which a lot of the time can cause part failures and fans, but not the case with ours. So you have lower maintenance, longer lifespan, and all around a nice environment for your server. And we could also offer wide operating ambient temperatures where you can deploy these systems. So the example we have here on the booth is good from minus 20 degrees to plus 55 degrees ambient temperature. So that's kind of a little bit of information about it.
So, I mean, doing this in a pole-mounted external system, I would imagine that you have two benefits. One is you can put higher powered components into it and you can cool them. So you've got more performance there at the edge. But I would also imagine that it, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, does it increase the areas you could put it in terms of the external environments? Not just by the sea, but you know, I live in Arizona, so I mean, it gets really hot there.
100%, and that's the thing. You're creating this beautiful home for your server to operate regardless. As we say, it's the extremes. You could go from Alaska to Death Valley. And
that was my next question. Yes. It would also help in the cold too.
Yes, exactly. So literally from hot to cold, you've got it. And it is, performance is huge. Like, you can keep, stability is big. So we have an example of these running, and I can show you in a second, where your temperature literally might fluctuate a degree. Your CPU,
wow.
you know, so it's so super efficient, and you're just packing a lot more performance in. And again, size is key. The unit we have now here is an older demo model, so people can see inside and get a look and feel. The ones that are being tested out in the field at the moment, they're more compact, they're lighter weight. So again, if you think about rigging and deploying on a pole, you want to make that easy. So things like size, weight, that all comes into play. There's also, like, it's quite good in terms of environment. The fluid itself, we call it an engineered water, so it's as close to water as we can get it. It then has things like, you know, depending on the cold temperatures, there might be a glycol mix, again, you don't want freezing within your system, and there's things like antimicrobial. But again, it's quite a sustainable option, and there's only such a small amount in each server. There's about 500 mils approximately in your one-time fill loop.
Now, you talked about reducing the cost of reducing the power consumption. I would imagine that it probably. What about maintenance? Does it reduce the maintenance?
Maintenance, it's taken a nosedive, that maintenance, it does. Because you see, you're not getting component corrosion, you're not getting. A lot of the time, it's dirt that's it's foreign bodies getting into your server that causes a lot of the issues.
So it's a sealed unit. Unless you get an alert, you don't really have to touch it.
No. Put it up in that pole and you forget about it.
Wow, that would be nice.
The only reason you're going to change it is because a newer server, a newer Intel CPU has come out and you want to change it up. Otherwise, you do not need to touch that system.
It's a weird question, but what fluid are you using in there?
So we call it an engineered water. So we try to keep it as close to water as possible because it has the best heat transfer coefficient, so it's best for cooling. But then we include things like an antimicrobial package and elements of glycol, just to use almost like as an antifreeze. I know, you're not really engineered water.
Okay, you want to show us the system actually running?
Yes, that'd be fab. So this particular unit is based on a Dell PowerEdge XR8620T. It's very different from what you'd be familiar with looking at the normal form factor of an XR8000, because obviously we compress it, we get rid of a lot of the components so that it can fit in this night neat enclosure. So as said here, we can see the CPU cold plate, the GPU hidden in here. We've got pumps which are highly efficient. These are only drawing typically about 2 watts, so really efficient pumps. They circulate, as I said here, you can see some of the piping where it's being circulated into your air-to-water heat exchanger, coming back around, and eventually being the heat element being rejected here out of our external radiator. As I said, normally this will all seal up into a nice little box, silent, sealed, secure.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Fiona, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.